the theme that kept coming up is that the coaching staff brought accountability, and it kind of made me think back to the days of Al Arbor, and this team was a lot in the mold of that team. And I know Butch Goring talked about it with me for that story as well, that he saw a lot of similarities between this last season's team and the teams that he played for when he was on the Islanders. So that there are similarities in that regard when you have a strong hand as the coach and somebody who's not just going to say, all right, just like throw the pucks out on the ice and let's have practice, who's going to demand accountability from the players and say, look, what you did yesterday, last night, that's not acceptable. We need to be better, and you guys need to realize that it's just not acceptable to put in a lackluster performance or a mediocre performance, and that your ice time is going to depend on it. And if you continue to play like that, then fine, you can sit down and you can sit in the press box and you're not going to play.
Yeah.
And that's what Al Arbor did the exact same thing. That's how you motivate players, and that's how you get better. Because if guys don't get better, then fine, you get rid of them and you get guys who will be better.
He will be missed, but hopefully remembered. You're listening to From the Press Box right here at 90.3 FM WHPC. Tim Leonard is him. I'm Rob Leonard. Tim, what's your Twitter handle?
At Real Tim Leonard.
We'll be back right after this. By the way, we have Phil Pepe on about 15 minutes.
WHPC 90.3, the radio voice of Nassau Community College, is looking for individuals, businesses, charities, or organizations in our local and global community that would like to donate to support our radio station. Whether you listen locally or online, here is how it works. Go to our webpage at ncc.edu/WHPC and click Donate Now. Or if you prefer, you can send a check to WHPC Radio, 1 Education Drive, Garden City, New York, 11530. Make check payable to the NCC Foundation. In the memo of your check, write WHPC Donate Now. Any contributions will help defray our operating costs, and it's tax deductible. This message was brought to you by the radio voice of Nassau Community College. Streaming online at ncc.edu/WHPC.
Attention, all NCC community. Nassau Community College, in association with the Nassau Community Medical Center, will be hosting the 21st annual Back to School Blood Drive on Thursday, September 24th from 9 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. Join us in the multipurpose room in the CCB building to donate blood. Blood donors must be at least 17 years old and in good health. Come with some personal identification, and we ask all donors to eat before donating. The process takes less than an hour, and refreshments will be served to participants. For more information, call 516-572-7401, extension 26028, or just come on in on September 24th and say, I'm ready to do my part to maintain a safe and secure blood supply. This message is brought to you by 90.3 FM WHPC, the radio voice of Nassau Community College, now streaming at ncc.edu/WHPC.
90.3 FM WHPC. From the Press Box here every Monday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. I'm Rob Leonard, joined by award-winning sports writer and my brother as a co-host, Tim Leonard. Timothy, how are you doing? What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the Mets? You want to talk about the Giants? You want to talk about soccer? Yes, we are a soccer-friendly show.
I don't know, whatever works for you.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Jets and the Giants, because we'll be talking a lot of baseball with Phil Pepe. Unless you want to go Yankees, and we can still talk other Yankee stuff with Phil Pepe.
Let's quickly talk about what is known as the Snoopy Bowl.
Snoopy.
Yeah.
It was kind of a dog of a game. I'll tell you
Arf,
that.
arf.
I don't know. Snoopy did bark every once in a while.
Occasionally.
Yeah, I was. It was. Well, let's put it this way: if you're a Jets fan, you're very happy with the Snoopy Bowl because your team looked good, you scored touchdowns in numerous ways, and you made the Giants' offense look pretty pathetic. So it's I just if I'm a Giants fan after watching this, and I know that J.P. Pelsman, the Jets beat writer for the Bergen Record, a couple weeks ago made a very good point that he doesn't put too much stock in exhibition games, but I mean, the Giants just looked awful. And if I'm a Giants fan, I'm starting to get worried because, number one, the Giants secondary is decimated by injuries. And what do they have? I mean, a lot of those guys, they have 3 safeties, and it might be a 4th, who have suffered season-ending injuries already. So now you have to rebuild that back spine of your defense. And how are you going to do that when there's no players available? So, I mean, the Giants are kind of reaching out. I saw one story in the paper today that they're reaching out to a guy that they used to have on their roster who's had ACL surgery and last year tried to come back and didn't play well and has already been cut by a team. So that's what they're going with. That's their option at this point, and it goes to show how bad they possibly could be. I mean, who knows what the defensive line is going to be like? Who knows if or when Jason Pierre-Paul is coming back and how effective he'll be? But the Giants are a team that for decades has hung their hat on defense, and I didn't like what I saw out of that defense on Saturday night. I mean, there wasn't much there. I mean, on the flip side, you look at Ryan Fitzpatrick. 9 for 14 for 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. All that is very good. You kind of wonder, or I wondered anyway, how much of that was attributable to the Giants' putrid secondary.
Right.
But at the same time, Antonio Cromartie, pick 6. I don't know what Eli Manning was thinking about at the end of the first half when he threw that pass because it was a terrible pass, and Cromartie could have crawled to 59 yards to the end zone. He had so much field in front of him. And the Jets also had a punt return for a touchdown. So that's the really encouraging thing for the Jets is that, all right, they're making things happen. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like I said, if you're a Jets fan, you have to be optimistic at this point. If you're a Giants fan, you're kind of wondering, all right, there's one more preseason game left, and we need to figure this out quickly because it didn't look good. And if that's the way the season's going to go, they're in trouble.
I think Eli is the main cog in this. If the Giants' defense is starting to look really bad, I think Eli has to step up and sort of work around this bad defense if this is the case. I think, especially if he wants to be the premier guy, the guy who gets all the money, he's got to step up. At least in the first couple of games, to show he can do it and say, okay, our defense isn't here, but our offense is here, and I'm leading it. I think this is something he has to step up to do.
Well, here's a couple things about that. Number one, Victor Cruz still isn't playing. He had the patella tendon surgery, but right now is dealing with a bad calf and hasn't practiced at all. So we're looking at a scenario at this point where if Cruz can get back for the opener against the Cowboys, he's not going to have any practice time. And that's an if. Right now, it doesn't look like he's going to be ready to play. I don't know. The opener is 2 weeks away, but he's not. Coughlin hasn't even said when Cruz is going to get back on the field. The other thing is, to me, it's hard to blame a quarterback because all you have to do is look as far back as Eli's dad. Archie Manning was a great quarterback. Archie Manning played on lousy teams. So I try not to blame the quarterback because if the line isn't playing well or if he doesn't have a lot of weapons, like he's missing Victor Cruz, or if the running game isn't doing well, but again, that usually comes back to the line, then I find it difficult to blame the quarterback. The other thing is the Giants are now firmly entrenched in that West Coast offense. And one thing that the West Coast offense doesn't do is stress ball control. It's a quick hitting offense. It's designed to move a team down the field. And if the Giants want to try to control the ball and keep their defense off the field as much as possible, they might have to work some more running plays into the game because that's the way you do it. That's the way you kill the clock, is an effective running game and getting first downs and keeping the time going.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple of factors working against them at this point. I think getting a healthy Victor Cruz back on the field will help immensely. But there's some things still for the Giants to figure out for sure.
And it's interesting because Coughlin has been getting no pressure at all about concerning what's happening to his team. what might happen to him.
Again, it's preseason. He knows what's going to happen to him. He knows if they don't have a good season, he's gone. That point has already been made by Mr. Mara. I don't think it needs to be repeated over and over and over again. There's nothing productive about that. He knows the scenario. He knows if they finish at 7-9 or something like that, he's gone. He knows he needs to make the playoffs. So, and plus, again, going back to what JP said, it's the preseason. It's not reason to panic, but from where I'm sitting and what I watched on Saturday night, I think there's a little reason to be concerned anyway. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, nobody comes into a season expecting to lose 3 safeties in the preseason. That's something you can't plan for, but it's something that happened.
How would you plan for it?
You can't.
You can't.
You can't. It's impossible. You can't go out and sign 8 safeties and say, well, geez, what if 3 of them get hurt? You can't. Then you can't clog up your roster like that, because then what position do you take? Do you take offensive line or what? I mean, you can't figure out what position is going to get hurt. These things just happen. And unfortunately for the Giants, they all happen at the same position. So that's where they're at. They need to fix it, or they need to create something on defense where either their linemen can get to the quarterback faster, or they blitz more or something. They need to do something. This is kind of the same situation as the Jets were in last year, if you remember,
right,
where they had a bunch of secondary guys get hurt in preseason, and Rex just basically went with the all-out blitz. And it worked early a little bit, but as the season went on, teams figured it out. All right, the Jets don't have anybody back there. We're just going to go 3-step drop and hit short passes. So teams didn't necessarily beat them with the long game, but they were still able to get the ball in receivers' hands, and those receivers made guys miss. So it's almost 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But if you don't have guys who can actually make plays, you're going to be exposed at some point in the NFL.
Well, that's it's not something to look forward to. Let's be honest, if you're a Giant fan. But we'll see what happens. I've always liked Coach Coughlin
I love Coach Coughlin. I mean,
he seems to find ways to get by, but at the same time, there are times when you think they're really doing well and they just fall apart.
The offense needs to produce is what needs to really happen. It's if you're not going to eat up clock, and I don't I don't think the West Coast offense necessarily is designed to eat up clock. You need to score. All right? If you score, then whatever the other team does, it almost doesn't matter because you're scoring points.
Right.
So if you score a touchdown in 5 minutes and the other team, it takes them 10 minutes to score, it doesn't matter. You're still tied. They need to put points on the board. And like I said, I thought Eli Manning got the ball with 2:43 left in the first half.
Okay.
And I start thinking about back to the Super Bowl, and I'm thinking, all right, Eli's really good in a 2-minute drill. I think the Giants will do something here. And then he had a couple little dump passes, and it wasn't anything really that wowed me or anything. And then he just threw the most inexplicable pass that Cromartie stepped in front of and just waltzed to the end zone. I mean, he stopped 3 yards short and just kind of danced his way in. It was ridiculous. I mean, he really should stop that. But that's how much room he had. And I mean, once he ran 20 yards after he got the ball, he was gone. Nobody was going to catch him.
Right.
So it was, all right, celebrate, do whatever you're going to do. I think, again, I don't really like it, that me first garbage, but he kind of earned the right to celebrate because it was such a poor pass, and there was nobody from the Giants that was going to be able to stop him.
Right.
So, but again, that's one play. It was an ill-advised play, but the Giants right now can't afford to make those kinds of plays.
No, they can't. You're listening to From the Press Box right here at 90.3 FM, WHPC, streaming at ncc.edu/WHPC, also at tunein.com. Search WHPC.
WHPC 90.3, the radio voice of Nassau Community College, is looking for individuals, businesses, charities, or organizations in our local and global community that would like to donate to support our radio station. Whether you listen locally or online, here is how it works. Go to our webpage at ncc.edu/WHPC and click Donate Now. Or if you prefer, you can send a check to WHPC Radio, 1 Education Drive, Garden City, New York, 11530. Make check payable to the NCC Foundation. In the memo of your check, write WHPC Donate Now. Any contributions will help defray our operating costs, and it's tax deductible. This message was brought to you by the radio voice of Nassau Community College, streaming online at ncc.edu/WHPC.
Looking to hear a hip-hop radio show with an edge? Well, tune in to Lyrics to Go, where I, DJ